For example, when an auditor, so we're looking at audit clearance and reporting. We're saying on the basis of audit quality control, the auditor has to come up with this procedure. So this one is known as the International Standards of Auditing, number 220. And also alongside the International Standards of Quality Control 1, Control 1. So when he accepts an engagement or appointment, he faces certain risks. So he is exposed to a number of risks, And one of these risks include, for example, the risk of litigation, what I've told you, risk of being sued, risk of litigation, also risk of an inappropriate opinion, of arriving at an inappropriate opinion. Also, if he does not live up to the standards of the profession in itself, the auditor's firm will have a risk of adverse publicity. And in such a field that is basically, you need good publicity for you to acquire clients or tendering of clients. So, and then also they may face the risk of being withdrawn, or the risk of withdrawal of practicing certificates, So to reduce the exposure of such risks, it is prudent that the auditor adopts this audit quality control. And what are some of the instances that this auditor does this? So you can add there and say, so in order to mitigate these risks, to mitigate the above risks, the auditor adopts, in order to mitigate the above risks, this International Standards of Auditing, number 220, requires that the auditor adopts the quality control procedures, requires that the audit firm to implement the quality control procedures, and these quality control procedures are done at 2 levels. So at 2 levels, namely, so the first one is on the basis of at the audit firm level, So at the audit firm level, this is procedures that we undertake as the audit firm to ensure that we reduce this level of risks. For example, under the engagement or under the team that we have, we ensure that everyone has the requisite skills and qualifications to undertake such an assignment. And then also at the individual engagement, or at the individual audit, at the individual audit engagement level. So this is at the engagement level itself. For example, if you undertake an audit engagement, one of the procedures or one of the quality control procedures would be that your work to be reviewed. It can be either reviewed by someone who did not take part in this audit as a way of counter-checking that what you arrived at is not an inappropriate opinion. So with that being said, we can start with quality control procedures at this audit firm level, which you're saying, or the quality control procedures, procedures at the audit firm level, or what you're saying, the basic elements of the quality control procedures. So this question was actually even asked in a previous year, which we can look at. So you can take out your first paper. So you can look at November 2019. November 2019, question number 4B. Question number 4B. November 2019, question number 4B. So these are the same as if you're asked on the basis of the elements of this audit firm, the measures that it can undertake to ensure that the audit is being done the right way. So November 2019, question 4B. So you're told ISA 220 quality control for an audit of financial statements requires that an audit firm to document and implement a system of policies and procedures to ensure audits are conducted in accordance with ISAs, or the International Standards of Auditing. So International Statement on Quality Control, one, requires that firms to establish, document, and communicate to staff their quality control procedures and policies and procedures to provide reasonable assurance that the firm and its staff complies with the professional standards, regulatory and legal requirements, and that the firm and or the engagement partner issue reports that are appropriate to the specific instances. Explain how an audit firm or a firm will address each of the 5 matters required to meet this ISA 220 and ISQC. So these are those aspects of the firm, or the audit firm, that they can undertake to ensure that they give an appropriate opinion. So one will be on the basis of defining the leadership responsibilities for the quality within the audit firm, So there should be clear definition of who is to be held responsible for quality within the audit firm, internal culture that promote internal culture that recognizes the quality, or which recognizes the quality is essential. That recognizes that quality is essential. That quality is essential for performance of an engagement. Performing an engagement. So this is on the basis of the leadership responsibilities in the firm. And then another thing that you could add there also is that it should state the relevant ethical requirements also. Relevant ethical requirements should be clearly stated. Relevant ethical requirements. So this is whereby the audit firm should come up with procedures that ensure that all the staff in the organization know the relevant ethical requirements. So in this case, you can say the audit firm should establish the policies and procedures that show the client that everything is being complied with in terms of the ethical requirement, designed to provide procedures designed to provide reasonable assurance, that this firm has adhered to the ethical requirements, to provide reasonable assurance that the firm that the audit firm has complied with the relevant ethical requirements, And these relevant ethical requirements, for example, include concepts such as independence, that the auditor is deemed to be independent, or there is no that kind of conflict of interest with the clients that they are auditing. And also, these ethical requirements, for example, you can list them. One is integrity, the other one was which one? Objectivity, for example, that is what you're saying, integrity and objectivity, also confidentiality and the likes. So these are some of the procedures of the quality control aspects that they should institute. And then also on the basis of acceptance and continuation of a relationship with the client, that is what you're saying, continuation of client relationship that they should come up with procedures that ensure that before they accept a client, they have done or they have checked the preconditions of an audit have been satisfied. Also, so in this case, you're saying, so the audit firm should establish also, or should have established policies and procedures that provide assurance, that provide reasonable assurance that they will only undertake, they will only accept an engagement in which they know they can perform an engagement. They will only accept an engagement if they have the capability, also the resources, and resources to perform the engagement, to perform it. So that is on the basis of the client acceptance also, and the acceptance and continuance of a client's relationship. And then also on the basis of they should come up with procedures to know that they have the required human resources or enough personnel and competent personnel to undertake audit of these clients. So under the human resources, you're saying, so they should establish, the audit firm should establish what you're saying, should establish policies and procedures. So this is just to show that the audit will be conducted in the highest form of quality that there is, to ensure that it has sufficient personnel to ensure that it has sufficient personnel. This personnel should be competent and committed towards the audit that you're conducting also, with competence, capability, with competence, sufficient personnel with competence and capability. So this brings back the concept of the factors to consider before accepting an engagement. For example, One of them was that to ensure that we have sufficient staff before accepting an engagement. And then another concept that would be there on the basis of the elements or what should be addressed in these matters would be on how the audit firm intends to undertake the engagement. So, and this now is on the engagement performance. So they should come up with procedures. For example, what you're saying, having the work of the junior members also to be reviewed. So the audit firm should establish policies and procedures. Also, the audit firm should establish also policies to ensure that regulatory requirements are met during this conducting of the audit, to ensure that all the engagements are performed according to the standards. Engagements are performed according to the professional standards, So this question now asks you how they will address these specific aspects. And some of them include this, what you have highlighted here. So for example, some of these policies to ensure that the engagements are performed in accordance with this professional standard is that if there is any auditor who goes against this professional standard, he is to be reported to the relevant professional body for a further action to be undertaken. You see that it helps that the quality of the audit is maintained, that it is of the highest form of the audit. Now,